Today's video is on our cancelled content plans. We've had quite a bit of it, and since the largest one of them was very crucial to our lore, I wanted to make this video to inform everyone about the majorly cut content. And also, as I think you've probably noticed by now, this video isn't in the usual setting for these kinds of videos. That's because I'm Video Maker and Director Box, not the in-lore character Box. There's a difference in personalities and knowledge that they have that will be revealed by the end of the video. So, cut content. What kind of content could we possibly have that could be cut? All of our content is basically predetermined by My Singing Monsters itself. I mean, we have unused songs that, we went with other compositions, but that doesn't really require an entire long video to explain. Well, let's jump into it. Bone Abyss Recomposed was one of the original plans for Break Week. It didn't get anything other than, hey, what if we did this? So, yeah, that's about that on that. Next, we have something that is either cut or forever in limbo. This is the second Critter Island. Critter Wilds is currently in development. Due to our style of content, we don't really have any artists on the team, so it's currently in limbo until someone can design the island and the critters, and it might as well be cut at this point because no one's done anything for it for a bit. The 2-year song medley, codenamed Big Ah Medley, was originally planned to wrap up the MSM portion of Recomposed so that we could jump into other stuff, like FJD. And FJD was originally going to be like a soft filler between our two big eras. But that begs the question, what was the second big era? Yeah, people might have mixed reactions on this one. Dawn of Fire. Dawn of Fire. Ever since the early days of MSM Recomposed, that's been one of the most intriguing mysteries. People have asked, are they doing it? They've lied about doing stuff before, and other people have answered, no, the content is too hard to recompose, of course they aren't doing it. But I have quite the surprise to talk about today. Ever since the early days of the project, it was a mystery, even to us, whether we would do it or not. It was a very maybe thing, with tentative composers that might be changed at any time if we decide not to do it. During the earliest days of the channel bio said that we were not doing Dawn of Fire, as well as Sugarbush, the Colossingo Man composer, which eventually happened. Side note, composer is still being worked on, and will include Gast. Anyways, the early channel bio mentioning what we weren't going to do was a bit of an error on my part. The intention was to say everything that we were doing, to leave everything else up to interpretation if they were happening or not. So something went wrong and it went from Dawn of Fire being unconfirmed to being outright deconfirmed. Whoops. The earliest teasers to Dawn of Fire were there since my first announcement videos. Whenever I'd list the team members, such as in the 1000 subscriber special, I'd list them as the MSM Islander composers first, then after those guys we'd get the other people like the people who did voicing or editing. But at the top of those list of other people were always 6 special people. The 6 constantly changing, Dawn of Fire recomposers. They went in the island release order, being Continent, Space, Cloud, Cave, Starhenge, and finally, Party. The last people we had composing those songs before Dawn of Fire was cancelled, a few months ago during the summer or something? Anyways, the last people we had composing these songs before Dawn of Fire was fully canned, in the order of the islands listed above, were Rareblin, Bleebobaloop, Sparkles, Blake at Stake, Rareblin again, and Strimes. That reminds me of another, although more unintentional, teaser. Cloud Gang. The people often credited in the descriptions for editing the videos, these being Sparkles, composer of Cloud, and Luke, composer of Fairy. These two thought that it was cool that they were composing similar islands, because, Fairy Island used to be Cloud Island and all that, so they made the title Cloud Gang for themselves. When they went around calling themselves that outside of the dev server, I was worried that people might correctly guess that Sparkles was doing Cloud Island. However, they'd figure that out, I don't know. So my paranoid self noticed that they were both in the video editing process. Luke making thumbnails and Sparkles editing the videos, so I decided to just say, yeah, Cloud Gang's the video editors. Haha, yeah, that's what it is. Also, this reminds me that Sparkles described his position as being other stuff in the Discord server announcement video. So yeah, that's the other stuff that he was up to. The next few announcement videos didn't say anything about Dawn of Fire, Although the New Year's halfway point did have sort of a teaser thingy at Colosseum where it was like vague. He didn't really know if we were doing 22 or 21 more islands. Off YouTube and in our public Discord server, there were a few scares of people realizing that we might have been doing DOF thanks to some poorly written YouTube comments from some members of the dev team, but the next YouTube hint was during the 6,000 thank you video. At the very end, while the My Singing Monsters Recomposed slide was on screen. It basically confirmed that if we could get some method of time travel, we could get Dawn of Fire. The largest teaser, and ultimately the reason why I'm making this video, has to do with the Colossi. See, the lore there is that the plant colossal gave Box, the character, such a vigorous want to awaken any and all colossi so that he could awaken the plant colossal's friends and save the monster world. I guess the colossals would work together to restore the original sounds or something? But instead, actually, let me read a bit from the planned 6th Colossi video. Box, being infected by the plant colossal with an impulse that compels him to awaken all colossi, definitely wants to awaken this colossi. The plant colossal had intended for this to be so that it could save the world when all of its brethren had awoken, but it had instead doomed them all. Doomed them all? How could that doom them all? Well, in the planned video, Box was going to attempt to wake up the colossi-looking thing called the Leader Beacon in the Geo Junction. This is where the lore gets real and where Dawn of Fire comes into play. Strap in. So, Box was going to see the name Leader Beacon, and in his prideful way, he assumes that to be himself. He was drawn to eventually meet it and become the leader of Recomposed. So, since he wants to ensure that happening, he somehow invents time travel so that he can take the Leader Beacon back to the Dawn of Fire, activate it there, and hopefully summon himself to it one day, restarting the Recomposed cycle. So, you remember from the Geo Junction video, when a coin and a geode collide, they open up the Geo Junction? Well, that's the Space Geo Junction, and hopping between universes and stuff. But when a marble and a geode collide, the geode turns chartreuse, and it opens up the Time Geo Junction, allowing you to go through time while your space stays relatively the same. So that's how time travel works. Anyways, we end up in the Dawn of Fire, and we recompose Dawn of Fire. Then, it becomes time for Box and the Recomposers to return to our present day. Before that, Box opens up the Leader Beacon in the past Geo Junction, allowing the leader to finally step forth and reveal himself. Gustavo Fring from Breaking Bad discovers the Geo Junction. Yeah, this was a Bradford thing. Box returns to the present day, only to find out that he had accidentally unleashed a supervillain upon the world. Gustavo Fring, or as he is known, the Leader, somehow has the power to kill entire timelines. The geodes of dead universes turn blue, and are then processed and used to create the most premium, high-quality meth. And those of you who are familiar with Bradford will know that the Recomposed timeline will eventually also succumb to Box's pride and arrogance, being turned into meth by the Leader, and becoming My Singing Monsters, Decomposed. Remember the cave wall lore posts? The last one of them ends in the monsters being thankful for the team's help. In the original ending, the time travel shenanigans that led to the Leader being around since the Dawn of Fire era led to a change in the cave prophecy. As the accompanying text reads, long ago, a creative entity from another world wished to have an impact upon the monster world. It took the form of a scuffs and lived among them, using the recording studio to carry out its work. The Wordos, jealous that they were not included in the works, caused the monsters to forget their lyrics upon the being's departure. The being was eventually summoned back, and called upon the help of its many friends to aid the monsters and give them a new song. Eventually, the monster songs were given back, and tighter bonds than ever before were formed between the caretakers of the human and monster worlds. But then, after the time travel shenanigans, the last panel changes drastically. Instead of a heart, it depicts the geode of the Recomposed timeline, turning from purple to blue, and an urn below. The text now reads, sorrowfully, something went wrong that changed the outcome of the future. The entire timeline was turned into methamphetamine, and its soul was put into a specialized urn, which was later smashed. Luckily, the being and his friends were able to escape the destruction, some of them going on to locate the foe who had turned the entire timeline into methamphetamine, and they killed him before he could do it to another that they had grown attached towards. That timeline was, of course, the Bradford timeline. Well, that sure was something. To all of you Bradford fans, this shall be made canon, and the final climax of the finale song of Bradford was, let it be known, to shut down the leader beacon in order to destroy the leader. I'll say this now in case it's important in the future. Treat the lore here as second class. True, unless stated otherwise, or unless something else contradicts it, because stuff has been cancelled. And now, due to the deadness of our dev server, and the constant inability to recompose the continent, Dawn of Fire Recomposed has been cancelled. Some people might have noticed this, as we directly link to the other Dawn of Fire Recomposed in our bio now. So go check them out for Dawn of Fire content. Stay here for regular MSM content. Thanks for watching, and happy recomposing. My Singing Monsters Recomposed. Also, Space Island Recomposed would have had Gobbledygook, and Cloud Island Recomposed would have had Quibble.